And most people don't even care about the subject that I talk about. I talk a lot about resource depletion and the demise of metals. Why should you care? Well, let me back up a little bit and tell you I started working in a copper smelter in 1968 in El Paso in Texas on the Mexican border. The smelter was located right next to the Rio Grande, and I could look across the Rio Grande when I was at work and see Mexico. When I would see the maids come to the river, um, take off their dresses, wade across the river, which most of the years was only 3 or 4 feet high, and it's even lower now. And then on the other side, put their dresses back on. So for a kid of 19 years old, this was pretty exciting. Probably be pretty exciting now too. But that smelter is gone, and smelters that I worked at in Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona are all gone. Braithwaite, Louisiana. We used to make all the things in America, like copper, nickel, cobalt, antimony, bismuth, uh, chrome, steel, everything. And we still make a few things now. Well, why do you care? Well, first, the NIMBYs, not in my backyard, came along and decided that we shouldn't do dirty things like dig mines and dig up the ground and make big holes in the earth, which I don't know if you've ever seen the big holes out in the mines in the West, the open pit mines. I think they're a wonder of nature. Sometimes they're a mile deep. Where a mountain used to be, there's a hole that might be a mile deep, and big, huge trucks bring dirt from the bottom. Well, they decided that was, you shouldn't do that to the earth. Well, so we shipped it off and let China do it. Did China do it more responsibly than us? No. But NIMBYs don't care about that. They pretend uh, that somewhere else they magically get copper and so their lights come on. Well, the earth became much more polluted because of NIMBYs. And like I worked in Peru when a smelter got moved down there, and in La Arroya became the most polluted place on the planet. Imagine that. Town of 50,000 people, every kid has lead poisoning. The NIMBYs were happy though because the 1 ppm lead that we were putting into the air in Oklahoma, um, in Peru, we could put 9 tons per day. Wrap your head around that. You know the difference in the size amount between 1 ppm and 9 tons per day? Because we had no pollution devices. We just smelted the metals and let everything go into the air. In the United States, you had very strict controls with bag houses and other technology to clean up the air, and acid plants that took out the acid, the SO2, which you make into acid. Peru, we just let it go up in the air. And all the kids had lead poisoning, and I'm sure if they checked for something else like mercury and stuff, they all had that too. All the men got shaky and uh, hands shook, and they look at 35. Um, they would look much older than me at 50 at that time. And sampled my blood, and I had high lead also. Everybody working down there did, because they didn't. It wasn't the Peruvians didn't care. They were afraid to enforce the rules because the smelters would leave. And they eventually did enforce the rules, and the smelters left and went to other places like China. So the metal production went overseas and a whole spectrum of metals, which is what I talk about. But who cares, right? But when you start making a car or making a missile or making a ship or making a radio or a TV, guess what? Then is when you care. Now, if you want to depend just on China to make your computers and everything else in your life, you expand that too to clothes and farming equipment and all that. You don't care who makes the metals. The little stuff that goes inside of your phone, who cares if there's germanium there? Or who makes solar panels, silver, the connections? Who cares? Well, we've gone from the technology that powered the past, which is oil, natural gas, and we missed the chance to go power the future with solar and wind and renewables. And we just gave it to China. NIMBYs helped with this a lot. Company owners that just wanted to have it done cheaply and then bring it back into the US and get rid of US jobs and just make profits. They liked it too. Everybody likes it, and now they look around and they find that the people that know how to do refined metals are old like me. And they don't call it the demise of metal. We just pronounce that we're going to bring manufacturing back to the US. Well, it takes 20 years to get a mine permitted in the United States. There's one out in Arizona that's been waiting 20 years for a permit. Lithium, nickel, chrome, cobalt, all of them. And all the people that know how to do it are getting long in the tooth. So I write on here about the demise of metals and how our future, we have let it slip away because our companies wanted profits from China. Our NIMBYs wanted to be superior and not do those dirty things in our country while they turn on their lights with copper that comes from somewhere else. When I got out of school, the state of Arizona made more copper than the rest of the world put together. Imagine that. Now we're an also ran. And we're losing every day that passes. We're losing the opportunity to even know how to do it. I know how to make magnesium. Probably one of the world's leading experts on making magnesium. Does anybody in this country want to build a magnesium plant? Not really. I put out a provisional patent and I've advertised it. We're talking about it, but instead we're spending money on AI and data centers. Think that's going to help us build stuff? Can't optimize a supply chain and a mine and a refining facility that you don't have. AI might make them run better one day, but they're not running better in America. They're running better somewhere else. That's the world we live in. It upsets me, but I don't think it upsets many people because I know the way the world used to be when the United States made dozens of different metals and had refineries and mines and had lots of really good paying jobs. But we decided, the self righteous NIMBYs and the company owners, wanted to maximize profits. And the people that wanted to make our world by just, computer make believe. Um, oh, AI, they can draw a picture of a smelter even though we don't have one. And we can pretend AI is going to make us rich when we don't have the raw materials to make all the stuff that we need for our personal lives and all those missiles, interceptors and stuff that we're firing in Iran. You realize we can't rebuild that unless China decides to share some critical minerals and metals with us. And we pretend we'll just rebuild, and it took us 50 years to tear it down. And you think you're going to rebuild that in, 3 years, 5 years? No. It's probably going to take longer to rebuild it than it did to tear it down. I don't know. I can tell you that you work like hell. We, might build a magnesium plant to make lightweight cars. 5 years would be a miracle. Maybe 10 years is probably more realistic. To build a pilot plant, take 3 years, operate it, optimize it so you know how to build a full scale plant. And who knows how to do that? I do. Does anybody care? Not particularly. So, and I suspect there's other, old Americans that know how to do stuff. But we're not big on old folks or old technology. We're going to just sit here and pretend that it magically appears when you run an AI program. Anyway, just feeling a little bummed out today. This is the Ancient Texan. Hoping my kids have a world that has all the critical minerals. So all the stuff that we've got used to, they can actually have. But we will see. So hope you have a good day. I'll quit feeling sorry for America here in a little bit. Hope you have a good one. Namaste.